Welcome to Real Talks, where inspiring women share their stories on relationships, growth, and life to empower you to love yourself and others better. My name is Neira, and I'll be your host on this journey. So grab yourself a cup of hot matcha or cacao, buckle up, and let's explore together. So, hi Camila, welcome. I'm really excited to have you here today. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me. Hello, everyone. My name is Camila. I'm originally from Brazil, but now I'm a citizen of the world. Currently live in Bali. It's been like a year. I used to have a corporate job and I had a career throughout, I would say, 7 to 8 years. I climbed the corporate ladder. I studied business until I decided to live that career behind, and now I'm a mindfulness mentor, a yoga teacher based in Bali, and I've been helping people going through burnout, high levels of stress to come back to themselves, reconnect with presence within themselves, become more calm and steady using tools like mindfulness and meditation and yoga.
Can you explain a little bit to us how did you came to here? Because obviously you said you were in corporate and then now you're teaching yoga, mindfulness, coaching people to burn out. What was the moment for you that was really impactful in your life to switch between climbing corporate ladder to starting your own business, or even between maybe how you came to the mindfulness and meditation?
Yeah, so my meditation practice and yoga practice started 10 years ago. So that was the beginning of everything of my spiritual journey. That took me 10 years to realize what I was literally doing with my life. And also took me to burnout, to understand that the corporate job and the career and the life that I was living wasn't really aligned with what I wanted for myself. So it took me to hit rock bottom to understand, okay, it was, I think the universe was trying to give me this wake up call of this is not where you belong. And sometimes we need those slaps in the face to realize that's not the path that we need to take.
Okay.
It took me that to realize, and sometimes we need them, but we don't need them at the same time. So I used to say to people, through rock bottom, it's good because there's no way that you're going to go even more down.
Yeah.
The way out of a hole, it's up.
It's beautiful what you just said right now. We need them, but actually don't need those moments.
Yeah.
Is this something that you do right now with your clients, with people, to really help them to understand that, yes, if you find yourself in two burnouts, you don't have to be there. It's possible to prevent this.
Exactly, that's the work that I do. Most people who come to me, they are not burning out yet, so they are one step before burnout, which is the chronic exhaustion or chronic stress situation. And they know that something is deeply wrong, but they just don't know what to do. And they are afraid that they might collapse and eventually be in a burnout situation like I was. So there is a way to prevent. It's like you have a headache and you've been taking Tylenol to stop feeling the pain, but you know that there's something deep that your body is trying to tell you. So if you start to listen to your body, listen to the signs that the body is trying to communicate with you, and be open to do something about it instead of waiting for the collapse to come, you can prevent the burnout. It's preventable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And if somebody is currently in exactly that situation where they notice they're on the edge, they're already overwhelmed, is there something, a couple of symptoms that are showing them where is that moment where they really have to stop and start taking care of themselves?
Yeah, there's a basically list of symptoms. But I think the first of all is noticing that something that is, it feels off. And it might be like your sleep is off, you might have insomnia, you might wake up in the middle of the night feeling anxious. I had that. I would wake up 2 or 3 a.m. with my heart pounding. You might have panic attacks. You might feel exhausted even after sleeping 10 hours on the weekend. You might feel like the weekend is not enough. When you wake up on a Monday to get to your work, you might withdraw socially. You might feel like life is just too much and you don't know what to do. You might have physical health issues like constantly getting sick because your immune system starts to degrade as well. And from there, other symptoms that could come together and make situation feel even worse. And if you're about to approach a burnout, even the minimal things that maybe would be like sending a message to someone on Slack or answering an email would start to feel like really heavy. I remember times to wake up in the morning, open my laptop, just the act of opening my laptop and check the messages from the day before, it was heavy. I would cry. So those are very strong symptoms that you are one step closer to a collapse, unfortunately.
Okay. Wow, yeah. And you said before that it's also part of all those symptoms is isolating yourself. When we talk about relationships, because this is something that we talk a lot about in this podcast, and it's part of my work, how would you say that the burnout and stress impacted relationships in your life?
Yeah, it's a very good question because I think you start to isolate yourself, as I said. And in those situations, I think you need connection with other people so they can help you. You have to invite help to come in, which is pretty much, it sounds counterintuitive because you're so tired and you feel like, I don't want anyone in my space, but most of the time that might be something helpful because if you're not able to see that you are going through something, the other person who cares about you, they will understand right away and see right through you that there's something wrong. And they will be able to provide help or tell you that you need help. And we are social beings, so we need socialize, whether that be with a friend or sharing that something is wrong with me. I don't know what really is going on, which was my case. I didn't know what was burning out until I collapsed. And I found myself sobbing 40 minutes on the kitchen floor of my apartment. And I called my therapist and he said, yeah, you're collapsing. But before that, I didn't know that I was about to collapse. I just knew that something was wrong. And I didn't share it with anyone. Maybe had I shared with a beloved friend or someone who cared about me, maybe I would have prevented this. Maybe not. But I think having someone, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, this is what I always say, like our relationships are our biggest asset in our life, and really opening up to people around us and asking for help, either if it's just a friend or a professional help, it's so important. But when we're in that state of trauma where we are in freeze and already collapsing or overreacting, then it's really hard to open up and ask for help because there's still a lot of stigma and shame about our mental health. Especially when it comes to corporate world and when it comes to being on top of all of our tasks, there's a lot of pressure to still perform.
Most people who are collapsing or one step closer to collapse, they don't want to admit because they might feel they're falling behind, or they might find themselves like, oh, I'm lazy, or I just need to push a little bit more, because we live in a society that glamorizes the hustle culture. And as you said, the corporate world or even entrepreneurship tells you that you have to stay on top of things, you have to work 12, 14 hours. And we have to remind ourselves that we are not machines, that our brain and our body have limited capacity to process certain things. And it's very important for you to find that sweet spot of how far can I still push and be productive and achieve the results that I need for myself in my life. And when am I pushing too much? When am I crossing the boundaries of my body, of the limits of my brain, the limits of my mind, the limits of my physical body? So it's really important for you to be attuned to the signs of the body. That's why I do the work that I do, that help people to disconnect from the noises of the external world that makes you not listen to those signs and reconnect with yourself, because the body is sending signals to us all the time. It's like when you're hungry, you get a signal from the stomach into the brain and you know it's time to eat. Same thing when you have high level of cortisol, which is the hormone connected to stress. The body is just sending signals to you all the time that, okay, this is a little bit too much, we need to do something about it. But we don't listen to it most of the time. We just ignore it and we keep on pushing because we might feel lazy, we might feel like we're falling behind. So there's like a very fine line in between those two things, and it's more about tuning into those signs and with yourself than anything else.
And You said you're practicing yoga and mindfulness now for about 10 years. I'm just curious, have you noticed that yoga and mindfulness is not just working on preventing the burnout and the stress? Do you have a feeling that it's also in some way increasing your capacity of how resilient you are and how much stress you can take on?
Oh, absolutely. It's already proven by science that long form practice of both meditation and mindfulness, it helps the brain to increase the level of resilience when you're dealing with stressful situations, when you're dealing with difficult times in your life. So it's something that compounds over time, which is the good news, right? The more you practice, the more strong and resilient it becomes. Going to the gym, right? Exactly. You go to the gym every day, and over a year you become stronger. So it's like any other practice. It's just like a gym for the mind.
This is also what I always try to explain to people, that it's not just about preventing something. Especially with breathwork, I noticed that I became so much more resilient and I had a bigger capacity. It's just that all the emotions and all the turmoil around you is not impacting you anymore as it did before, because the mind is stable, the emotions are stable, and the body is just more capable of taking you're capable of taking better care of yourself through the mindfulness practices as breathwork or meditation.
And I think resilience is probably one of the strongest assets that we should have nowadays, because it feels like everything around us, the technology, the pressure of stay up to beauty standards, of being healthy, of being wealthy, we have all this list of things that you need to check in the checkbox, and you have to stay up to those things. And there's so much pressure on us that if you don't train your mind, if you don't train your body to stay resilient to those things, it's just so easy for you to fall into the trap of just losing yourself into those things.
The life is not getting easier.
No, it's just getting harder.
And there's also this misconception about, like, when you start personal development, mindfulness, being more spiritual, that the life is suddenly going to be pink and everything's going to be perfect as we see it on Instagram. But at the same time, the challenges sometimes become even harder. You just learn to not lose yourself in it. Coming back to your relationships, and do you feel that your mindfulness practice impacted also your relationships with, for example, romantic ones or a business relationship, or even with family or friends?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like mindfulness and meditation, it increases your capacity to see the other person with a higher level of compassion. So you can put yourself in their shoes, and you might be able to see that the other person who is right in front of you is probably not trying to hurt you intentionally, but they themselves are going through some level of pain, some level of trauma. You detach from your judgment of how a situation should be, and you start also to see things for what they really are.
What I noticed is that there is a level of, when we are on our spiritual development journey, where we develop high empathy and compassion towards others, and we understand their trauma, but at the same time we bring ourselves into the trap of staying too long around unhealthy people, exactly because of that, because we are so empathic, so compassionate, and so understanding towards those people, that we try to over-explain all of the bullshit that they're bringing on the table with, oh, I have compassion, I have understanding. And it's so important to dare to set clear boundaries and get into the position where you have the compassion, but at the same time you appreciate yourself enough to withdraw yourself from the situation that it's obviously not healthy for you.
No, nothing really justifies a toxic relationship or a toxic behavior. No level of compassion, because then you're just neglecting yourself, neglecting your own needs and feelings to put someone else in front of you, or putting someone on a pedestal.
It could be work, this could be
somebody,
some work colleague, this could be a romantic partner or parents, friends. The pattern is always the same at 100%, the end of the day.
100%. And it needs to, in anything, you need this clear distinction between up to what certain point am I being empathic and compassionate with the other person, that it's not crossing my own boundaries. So it's a hard thing to do, but I think over time with practice, it becomes a bit easier. Not always easy, but a bit easier.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part of the journey, that really you're peeling off layers and layers, getting to understand more about yourself and about other people. And beautiful.
Yeah.
So Camila, I work with a lot of women who come to me because they're overwhelmed because of their romantic relationships or the work. So if you as a mindfulness and meditation coach would have to give them one advice to support them right now, what would it be? For example, if they're on the edge of the burnout, they have an unhealthy relationship, and then when they go to work, there's all this pressure of still performing, they maybe even in leadership positions or just they're high achievers, how to handle this situation the best?
I think the first thing that you should do is to have a very honest conversation with yourself and see things for what they really are, not for what you want them to be. So we have this tendency to project things and create stories in our own minds of how things should be, how we would like them to be, and sometimes they turn around to be a different way, and we still try to get that story or that the persona to put them back into the story that the mind created, whereas the reality is completely different. So I think the most powerful advice is if you could put yourself in front of a mirror and just have a very honest conversation. This is how my reality is right now. I'm burning out, I'm collapsing, I don't like my job, my relationship is bad, my boss is toxic. If you can just put those things on paper and say, this is where I'm at and this is where I want to be. What are the things that I need to do to change? Do I need to see a therapist? Do I need to talk to a friend? Do I need to apply to a new job? Do I need to quit this relationship? The brain doesn't like changes, right? It's part of our survival. And even though we changed a lot over the last 200,000 years, and we're not living in caves anymore, the brain is still adapt to survive and fight for survival of the species. So anything that is related to constant change, the brain's pushes back. So your brain is wired to push you back whenever you try to make a decision. So you have to fight with your brain and say, look, you're either going to work with me or you're going to work with me. Because if you let your brain win, it's going to be a hard battle and you're going to be in this loop of suffering endlessly. So to not make this a big trip, be honest with yourself. And that's where mindfulness, especially meditation and breath, might help these people, because it certainly helped me to sit with myself and allow me to see things exactly as they are instead of trying to believe a beautiful story that my mind was trying to telling me.
That's powerful, exactly, to be honest with yourself. At the same moment also to see how am I co-creating this, because we are always part of that story. And as you said, we are projecting things on the other people, and sometimes the situation is really unhealthy and we have to remove ourselves. But at the end of the day, we only have power to change our own lives, to change our own patterns. And this was something that was so important for me. On my journey, first step was definitely to remove myself from a lot of toxic situations, as my work that I also didn't like, my pharmaceutical industry work, but also then to understand, to ask myself a question like, how am I bringing myself into, what am I missing? What am I not seeing to bring myself in those situations again and again? And this is when you really change from being part of that story into being a creator of your own life, and you take power over your own life and responsibility, which doesn't mean that somebody who experienced trauma is in any way responsible for that trauma, or if somebody experienced abuse. No, the responsibility is always by the other person, but you have the power to change, to move, to not feel stuck, to not feel like, hey, I have to stay in this situation. No, there's always a possibility to go out.
And sometimes you don't need to leave your life behind and come to Bali like we did. Sometimes it's just the most logical next step. It feels like your whole life is just going into a direction that is so difficult for you to change everything, that maybe one slight change is going to change all the rest. So it might be just quitting the job, it might be looking for another job, it might be leaving the toxic relationship. You can list everything down and trying to work on all of them at the same time, but it's probably going to be quite overwhelming if you've never done that before. But even if you can just ask yourself, what is the one thing that I could do today that is going to create like a big domino effect and is going to help me to change my life? Or what is the thing that is the most harmful for me right now? Is it this relationship with this guy that is toxic and I'm trying to leave? Or is this job that is just dragging me down and getting me unhealthy and about to collapse? So it could be just one thing that you could try and change today that's going to make the whole difference. And all the rest will follow.
Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about training our minds, because I found this really interesting, what you said before. I call this always training our ego, because at the end of the day, it's training our ego to really cooperate with us. Do you have any specific tools how you work with to train the mind or the ego to collaborate with you and not work against you?
Yeah, obviously meditation would be the tool number one. And before getting more into that, one thing that a monk once told me when I was doing a meditation retreat in Thailand, he said that we take care of our bodies every single day. So we take showers every day, sometimes multiple showers if you're in a hot country like we are right now. We brush our teeth, we feed the body with food, we drink water, we take care of ourselves, right? We take care of the body's needs all the time. What about the mind? We don't take care of our minds, and we are bombarded by information, by
social media.
Since the time that we open our eyes to the time that we go to bed, we are constantly being bombarded by all of those things. And we don't give ourselves the time to, like he said, washing the mind. So if you go out on the mud or on the rain or on the dust, you come back home and you take a shower, you clean the body. Why don't we do the same with our minds? I really like his concept of showering the mind, which means that you don't have to meditate 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours a day. Most people don't have this time. So what about you meditate 5 minutes every single day? That gives you the same benefit of meditating 2 hours once a week or even more.
That is beautiful, because a lot of people think that they need a lot of time. I hear this often, I don't have time to do all of these practices. And obviously, if you're like you and me, this is our work, and we do a lot of, we spend a lot of time also exploring different modalities and methods. But what you said right now, it's so important. Better do it 5 minutes a day than do it every 2 weeks or once in a week for 1 hour, because this is not sustainable. It's not really bringing any results.
No, and we have to treat the mind like another component of ourselves, the same way that we treat the body as a big component, as a machine that makes everything keep functioning well. And the mind is pretty much the same. At what point we started to neglect our mind, and our mind is with us 24/7. So there is a book from Michael Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul. And he has a very nice way of explaining this. He says that imagine that your mind is a person outside of yourself. And now try to listen to that. Those things that the mind is telling you, as if it was a person right next to you. So you try to track all of those thoughts. Oh, I haven't messaged that person. Oh, what is this person thinking about me? I need to do this about work. I need to do groceries. Your mind is nonstop with thoughts. Try to project that into a real life person. He said, if we do that, you wouldn't be with that person for like an hour or two, because it's just so tiring.
And it goes even further, because most of the time our mind is really critical towards us, and sometimes it's going to say really nasty things, like the self-doubt about our worth, how we're not capable of doing things. Imagine that the mind, this inner critical voice, is a real person and telling us all of those things. We probably not be with that person for a minute or 5 minutes.
No, you would kick them out right away. Like who could stand that?
Exactly. And what breathwork does, like meditation works in a similar way also, but what breathwork also does is really that when we breathe dynamically, it lowers the activity in our prefrontal lobe, which is the seat of exactly that little voice, that inner critical voice. And with lowering that activity and calming down our brain waves, then we are capable to separate that voice from ourselves. And when we train this through mindfulness, breathwork, meditation, and all the other techniques, it starts being more obvious for us that voice is not, it's not who we really are. Because a lot of the times people just confuse it. They identify so much with that critical voice, and they don't know that it's just a voice. You can just really ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a cloud passing in the sky. You don't have to.
And voice becomes also, with time, it becomes less harsh. It becomes softer and softer when you train it. It obviously takes a lot of effort. It's like even if you go once to gym, you're not gonna get that body that you desire. And the same way it's also with training your mind. If you do once meditation or if you do this for just a month, there will be some results. Actually, you see the results after a couple of weeks already, but like the real work and the real results come after some time. When you work with people, how long approximately does it take to see the first results where they really can benefit from the mindfulness techniques that you're sharing with?
Because when I'm working with people one-on-one, because we're doing intense work, my program it lasts 4 weeks, so they can just start to apply the tools by themselves afterwards. They don't have to be dependent on me. So it's very like a hands-on approach. Yeah. Normally, when I'm working with people in the week 3, we started to see the results right away because, as I said, it's an intense work. It's not so intense, but it's like 1.5 hours per week that we do. It's a combination of mindfulness and meditation and other DBT tools that I use. But normally after 3 weeks in the program working together, it might take 3 weeks. If they're doing the work by themselves, let's say meditating every single day, 5 minutes per day, I think like after 2 or 3 months, if you wanted to do it on your own, you can start to see some benefits. Even before, but it really depends on if this is your first time doing it, if you've tried other methods before. It really depends. So there's no such specific number, but there's a range between, I would say, a couple of months to start reaping the benefits.
Yeah. Say the same, that it's really after a couple of weeks. What is, in your opinion, the biggest misconception about meditation?
Yeah, I hear a lot of them actually. First of all, I hear some people saying meditation is not for them because they say it's too hard.
I could not sit.
Yeah, meditation is not for me. I hear this, oh no, I tried and meditation is not for me. And there's no such thing because all the brains operate in pretty much the same way. So if I am able to sit and meditate, you're also able to sit and meditate. So there's no such thing. The thing is that people think they're going to sit and the mind is just going to stop thinking. And that's so far from the truth. You're never going to be able to stop your mind from thinking, even if you're a monk meditating in the mountains of the Himalayas. The thing you're going to might have over time is windows of thinking less during the meditation. But until you get there, it's going to take a lot of practice. But the biggest goal of meditation is to help you to sit with your thoughts and allow them to pass by you as if there are clouds passing by the sky. So don't ever think that you're going to sit down and stop and prevent your mind from thinking, because it's not going to happen. And this is just going to make you feel even more frustrated. But just think that meditation is a tool that it's going to help you to not be completely taken over by this inner critic, by the crazy thoughts that we have going on in our minds all the time. It's just like a way for you to sit as the observer, like you're laying down on the grass on a park on a sunny day and you're just watching the clouds passing by. So that's the main premise of meditation.
Camila, for being here today with me, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and all your experiences. If you want to connect with Camila, I'm going to put all the information in the box below so you can reach out to her. Glad I had you here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If today's conversation resonated with you, follow us on Instagram and connect with us there. The link is in the description. See you in the next one.